Okay guys, so to start off in the intro, we're going to be cycling around three major chords. We've got G major, we've got D major, and we've got C major. So instead of just cycling around the chords as we would normally, we're going to try and make things a bit more interesting and a bit more Hendrixy by incorporating the first inversion shape over each chord. So what the first inversion means, or what the first inversion is basically changing the root note of the chord to the major third in the scale of the chord. So we're going to change this G note for the first chord up to the 7th fret on the E string, so it's now a B note, and we're still keeping the bottom two the same. So sliding that 3rd fret on the E string, just going to change that up to that 7th fret, keep the 5s on the A and the D strings. We're going to do the same thing over the D chord. So exactly the same idea, we're just moving over to the root on the A string this time. Sliding up to that 9th fret on the A string, using the 3rd finger. And then finally the C chord, exactly the same as the D, just sliding things down 2 frets. Same idea, sliding up to that 7th fret on the A string with the 3rd finger. Then we've got the 5th frets on the D and the G. So once more back to the G, over to D, and then down to C again. So once we've slid up to these first inversion shapes, it kind of leaves the fingers open to grab more notes in this position. So we're borrowing the 5th fret basically with the 1st finger, and just hammering on up to the 7th frets on the D, A and the E. Maybe add in some double stops, so we're going to strum 2 strings at the same time. 5th frets on the D and the A string, hammering up to 7. I'm going to do the same thing over D. So I'm just borrowing the 7th fret with my 1st finger, hammering up to the 9th fret on the G there, keeping that 7th fret B ringing out. Going down to C, exactly the same thing. Back to G. So the intro in my version just basically utilises that whole idea, just cycling up to the inversion shapes in each chord and then messing around with the notes in that area, just to create something a bit more interesting and a bit more Hendrixy. So starting off in the intro, we're going to start with a G chord, a little variation on G major. We're going to hold down the 3rd fret with a thumb on the E string. We're going to hold down the 5th fret on the D with the 3rd finger. So we're missing out that A string. We want that A string muted with the tip of the thumb. So the thumb's just coming over and resting over that A string, not pressing down. Holding down that 5th fret on the D with the 3rd finger. We're going to leave the G open. And then we're going to bar the 3rd fret on the B and the E at the bottom with the 1st finger. We're just going to strum right through. We're just going to be picking the top 3 strings. Moving over to the D chord, the 2nd chord, we're going to slide straight up into our first inversion. So So we're going to aim for that 9th fret on the A string, sliding straight up with the 3rd finger. And we're going to pick right through that, the D major 1st inversion. And then we're adding in some extra notes in that 1st inversion shape. So we're barring the 7th fret with the 1st finger, hammering on up to the 9th fret on the G, back down to the 7, same thing on the D, up to 9 on the D. Following the D chord, we're going down to our C major 1st inversion, and to introduce this chord we're going to hammer 5 up to 7 on the A string. So we're hammering on up to that major 3rd note of C. Then we're going to catch that 1st inversion shape, and we're going to make sure the 1st finger is ready to grab the 5th frets on the D and the G. So as soon as I'm finished with the hammer on up to the 7th fret, the 1st finger is coming on over to that 5th fret on the D and the G, and then just plucking down. We're just arpeggiating that 1st inversion shape just by picking notes, holding down the chord and picking notes with the picking hand. Finish on that 1st C, 5 to 7 on the A string, back to that 7th fret, moving over to the G and the B with the 5th fret, 5th fret bar on the G and the B. So we're just repeating the same kind of patterns over each inversion shape. The first section. We're going to go back to the G chord, back to that G chord shape that we started with. Same type of thing over that 2nd G chord, sliding back up to our D 1st inversion shape again. Back down to C. So the 2nd time on C we're going to change things up a bit. So we're still in the 1st inversion shape, 5 to 7 on the A string. Just going to change that a bit slightly there. We're going to hold down the 5th frets on the D and the G, 7th fret D with the 3rd finger up to the 8th fret. So we're going to stretch up to that 8th fret with the 3rd finger, still holding down that 5th fret on the D and the G, back down to 7, and then back down to 5. Coming down to that 7th fret on the A string, back to 5 on the D, 7 on the D, and then slide up to 9 with the 3rd finger. And we're going to grab this G chord variation, taken from the C shape of a G chord. So it's just the D, G and B strings that we want, and we've got 9th fret on the D, 7th fret on the G, and then 8th fret on the B. So that 2nd section. So over the third cycle of the chords, we're now in this new G major position shape. So we're just going to pluck the individual strings to arpeggiate the chord. Moving over to D again, first inversion shape, 7 up to 9 on the A string. Same type of thing, hammering up to 9th frets on the G and the D. Back down to C. Back up to G again, in this higher position variation of the chord. The last time we're going to play G in the intro section, we're going to hammer on up to the 10th fret on the B string. So we're holding down the 8th fret on the B with the middle finger, and you're going to hammer on up to the 10th with your pinky, all while holding that G chord down. And then just plucking back up the chord. Back to our D variation. Then the final time we're going to play D, we're going to do the same thing that we did over that C chord in the third run through. So we've got that third finger stretch up to the 10th fret on the D. Straight back down to that 7th fret on the D and the G. Then to introduce the C chord, we're going to go 9, 10 on the A string. And then come around with a thumb on the 8th fret on the E. Then the final C chord, we've got this C sus shape, which is the 10th fret on the D string, 7th fret on the G, and then 8th fret on the B. We've got a double stop here, we're going to hammer on 7 up to 9 on the G. So the full intro section all together. So once you've got a grips with sliding up to the first inversion shapes over each chord, you can add in your own kind of hammer on and pull offs, your own embellishments, just to keep things interesting and kind of put your own stamp on things. Most of the time if I come back to play the song, I probably won't play things the same as I did the first time. I think that's the nature of this kind of guitar style. It's you don't really need to have everything note for note every single time. Things are kind of left open for you to put your own stamp on things. Try and be as creative as you can using these ideas, and then branch off into your own things. So try and use those tools to make your own thing and just keep it interesting for yourself. So yeah, just try and mess around with that intro section just to get used to those ideas, and then we'll move on to the verse section.